still with me. We still fit them, you know, also just that we're very close to the end, kind of, fairly. We have another speech by Professor Steglin, and then a discussion, and then another one of the case studies. And well, afterwards another coffee break, and then we are really going towards the end of our workshop. Well, I'm happy that we can still see so many people, and everybody's very interested in the topics. And for this, I would pass the word to Professor Steglin. Thank you.
If you look through your slides, already translated for you in Mongolian, we have now part 8. And this is now a continuation of our other approaches, because now we are not linking final demand with the inverse, we are not linking primary input with the inverse, we are not linking final demand and primary input using the inverse, but we try to integrate satellite systems. Satellite systems for employment, energy, and environmental reuse. Well, was already yesterday's question, what is available for Mongolia, and we have seen at the moment we have unfortunately only available data for the satellite system for employment. For that reason, I have looked for some other countries who have already done input-output analysis with energy and with environmental pollution figures, so that we can only see how it works. So we have at first employment matrix, then the relation between employment and production, employment and final demand. You see it is more or less the same structure as we have had with our other approaches. Then I show you two good practice examples. Then I go beyond Mongolia and look for integration of satellite systems for energy and for environmental pollution. We have already heard very often during our workshop that the input-output model can also be combined with satellite systems. This will result in a variation of the presented formulas for the linkages between production, primary input, and final demand. Means we are substituting some of our formula elements by formula elements for employment or for other satellite systems. You see, for example, the input coefficients for primary input coefficients AP, which we have used before the lunch break, must be substituted by the labor coefficients B, which indicate employed persons per unit of total output. But you can remember in the introductory speech yesterday morning, I have already used some of the employment data. We calculated the labor coefficient, and that will be done today again. Labor coefficients for Mongolia can be compiled by combining data on employed persons for 2013 from the labor force survey and with the data on total output from the IoT 2010. In the future, I think you can make on your own the same compilation by using the employed person data for 2013. And if the table for input-output table for 2013 will also be available, or what here I think Ms. Erlenson has told you in the future, 2015, then you can combine the same data for the same year. The labor coefficients will be used to show the importance of production and final demand on employment. And this I show you with the next slide. I think these labor coefficients we had already had. When we made some analysis for the labor coefficient, I can only repeat. We have the number of employed persons in the year 2013. We have the total output in Mongolia in TURIX expressed for 2010. And by dividing the employed person by the total output, we get the so-called labor coefficients. I think they are here used the term for B, employment, or I do not know why they are B for the moment. But at the end, we have already mentioned that this is the reverse of what you know as labor productivity. How looks now the formula? We have two possibilities to make something with employment data. First, the labor coefficients can be multiplied with the original IoT in order to derive the so-called employment matrix, IoT-B for Mongolia. It is the original IoT, but translated, transferred, transformed into employed person. B will be multiplied with the traditional, with the basic input-output table. What we receive? We receive an employment matrix which shows labor input directly used for intermediate consumption, as we all know, quadrant 1, and for final demand categories Y as quadrant 2, and how it looks? It looks this way. Direct employment attributed to intermediate consumption and final categories. What we can see from the first part of our employment matrix for Mongolia. We can see how many persons working in agriculture have been working in output, for example, to electricity. 102 persons. How many persons who work in agriculture have been working for deliveries to mining and quarrying? 338. So, the absolute data in Turing from your original table will be multiplied with the labor coefficient. B multiplied the IoT, and you get automatically the so-called employment matrix. That this matrix is consistent, you can see again from the last column of our employment matrix. You see here all together, these are the employment data for agriculture. And we have seen that we have the figure 329,100. If we go back to our basic data from the labor force survey, we see, 329,100. So what we are doing, we are distributing the employed person according to the output structure. How many persons are working for delivery 1-to-1, for delivery agriculture to food, agriculture to private consumption, and so on and so on and so on. So I believe what we can identify in this so-called, it is a direct employment matrix. For that reason it is here mentioned direct, and we can see how many of the people who are working, who are occupied in our 20 sectors, contributing to the delivery to other sectors of agriculture, of manufacturing, electricity, and so on and so on and so on. And finally we see, directly in the export of agriculture in Mongolia, 27,565 people are engaged. So many people are working for final consumption. So many people are working for the delivery of agriculture to education, let's say to schools, to university, to the cafeteria in all these institutions. Let's see here financial and insurance activities. So and so many people from the banking sector are working for the activity professional, are working for real estate activities. And also let's see again for our the final consumption, because I believe that is the most what is of interest in transport and in storage of the whole amount of what we have. How many? We have 31,700, no it was the next one, 65,900 people, 65,900 transportation. This one is the wrong problem. So I'm see it correctly. This must be the figure, yeah. And you see so many, about 25,709 people are working for transporting services that are given to private households. It is a very simple arithmetic operation, but often people just see, to compare the overall total included employment with the direct employment. For that reason, it is of interest to transfer or to transform or to convert also the basic IoT by using the labor coefficient for all the different sectors. I think the same can be done with the 55, but you have mentioned, I think, or we asked before, if we have 55 labor coefficient, we can show the distribution of the overall employed person in the 55 sectors to what other sectors and to what final demand component they are contributing with their work. The work is reflected in the delivery of the goods because we refer to our basic input-output table. And I think the only problem might be here, I would expect a question from the professors in this room. They would say, if you make this computation, you are assuming that for each sector you have the same productivity. Because if I multiply the whole row by the same labor coefficient, I have automatically the same input of persons per output. And you know it can be different if you have, I think, specific user and they have more capital intensive production. And they do not need so many persons as perhaps the other one. So I think it is an approximation, but it gives you an idea where are the main labor force is occupied. But you must be aware of the assumption which is behind the labor coefficient, that means the reverse gross labor productivity is assumed to be on the whole row and not make separately for private consumer goods, for electricity, for agriculture goods. That is only a very important assumption, and because there were sometimes today also some questions with regard to the assumption, I think I want to pinpoint this issue. I think we're also using it. I made some studies for our Federal Ministry of Employment. I think they have accepted if you write down what are your assumptions, then the people know, and if they have other information about that, okay, then they can substitute our I/O information by other ones. Now we come again to that what we have already learned with our final demand and with our primary inputs. You see here, we have the interrelation between employment and production can be disclosed by the labor coefficient if we multiply them with the inverse matrix. You see, before we had our F, and our F for AP multiplied by C. Now we substitute our AP, our primary input, by the labor coefficient and make the same multiplication with our inverse. B are our 20 labor coefficient multiplied with the inverse. It can be multiplied because the labor coefficient this is, I think, now it is working. And the resultant matrix FV shows a connection between industrial output, also originally inducing final demand categories, and employment. What we are doing here, we are not doing a specific matrix multiplication because V is only a vector. So I think the person who always knows about the mathematical background would know just at the first moment, aha, that is a scalar multiplication, not a multiplication by a matrix, because we have the same for each part and we are not making the traditional matrix multiplication. The resultant matrix show that we have just, but in other words, I want to pinpoint also, it indicates, the result indicates for each industry the number of employed persons required directly and indirectly per unit of production. In the original employment matrix, we have only seen how many persons, I think I go back a little bit here, we have only seen how many persons are are directly included in the production of financial services. In all the individual intermediates they are included. But now we want to go ahead and want to know how much is also within all these sectors. I think Sana has made during her presentation, I think so nice, very often the circle. So I think that shows us the interlinkages, inter-industrial linkages, and that will be now seen if we make the compilation and we arrive at the table which is called total employment attributed to 1 unit of final demand in use production. So I think what we see here, these are now all elements at the end. We see here also the coefficient, total employment attributed to 1 unit. In our employment matrix, we had the absolute data as a basis. Here we work again with our input-output model, using our 1 unit as additional demand. So that means, for example, let's take an example. If the demand for agriculture will be increased here by 1 unit, so you see that here 0.22% have to be needed. And do not be surprised because that we split up the person. It is only a mathematical approach. You can also again now, I think, increase it. You can say we have 100 additional units, and for 100 additional units, 22 persons are necessary. So from the total employment attributed, we can again calculate not only the persons involved in agriculture, but also the persons involved in the supplied products. In the other sectors where the products are produced, the intermediate outputs will be sent to agriculture, and within these are the costs for employment, for the compensation of employees. So I think it is again the same transmission, what we know using our inverse matrix, going back according to our backward effects, and try to integrate also the persons that have been working on the previous production steps. Not the income on the previous production steps, not the intermediate input on the production steps before, but the people who were working on the previous production steps. So I think that is the idea of all the satellite systems. We are not using our basic flows of goods and services. We want to use instead of the satellite system here for employment. So we substitute our goods and services by employment, by labor input, and I think that will be also done with the other satellite systems. We have another possibility. So far we have only discussed it for 1 unit of production. And you know it from our other approaches. We made the same for primary inputs. For primary inputs, we had at first only the multiplication AP multiplied by C. But then later on we made the combination. Here we had here AP multiplied by C multiplied by Y final demand. Now we substitute our primary inputs by the labor coefficient. So we do not say only V multiplied by C will give us how many persons total employment per unit, but total employment per our final demand in Mongolia. You see here, before we had not the Y. The interrelation between employment and production can be used to quantify the amount of labor attributed to final demand categories. For this, the matrix FB will be multiplied with the matrix of final demand categories Y. You see, it is always a repetition of all the issues we have here mentioned before. What I have just forgotten, we must add these, and perhaps you can remember me before or after the discussion. We want to add all the other formula to our graph. Can remember in the graph we have only implemented 2 formula for final demand inverse, 2 formula for primary inputs inverse. We have not included the formula for for final demand and primary inputs, and what we are now just doing for satellite systems. We have to add it. The resulting matrix CB indicates the amount of labor directly and indirectly contained in final demand categories. In other words, the final demand categories are thereby expressed in terms of employment. So if we make the compilation, what we have again what we already know. The total employed person in the 20 sectors and the overall total for Mongolia in the year 2013. These are the figures which were also our basic data before we made the labor coefficient. You see, in agriculture we had 300,029, in mining and quarry 50,000, in manufacturing we had 81,000, and so on, and all sum up to 1,103,000 employed persons in Mongolia in the year 2000. For what final demand component these persons have worked directly and indirectly. So, to satisfy the demand of final consumption expenditure for goods of agriculture, of the overall total of 329,000 persons occupied in agriculture, 165,521 persons were engaged in producing goods for final consumption expenditure, directly in agriculture and indirectly in all the other supplying sectors. It's always the same what we had with primary inputs. We said intermediate imports, compensation of employees. How much is originating in this sector? How much is coming with the supplies from the other sector? Now the whole system will only substituted by the labor, or will be headed by the labor coefficient, and now we have the information about the labor coefficient. And now it's interesting why I use the total employment matrix at the beginning, directly. Let's go back to the first matrix. How many persons were employed for producing goods in agriculture for the final, for private consumption? Here we see for private consumption, they are working in agriculture directly 69,676 persons. So and so many are working direct for export of agriculture. Now we want to go ahead and want to include our indirect. So we look now for the comparable data in our analysis with the result of total employment. This is direct employment. Now we look to the same, that is row 1 in column 21. Let's look to our final result of our total employment, not to one unit, but to our final demand multiplication. And what we see here, 165,521. If you deduct from these 165,000 the number which we have seen in our original table, again, what we know, the difference are indirectly employed people in other branches to satisfy the demand of final consumption for agriculture products. So I think it's again all what we know from the applications before. We had the same done for all the primary input components. For that reason, we have only substituted the primary input components here, AP by our B. But now we have only one element because we have only one column of labor coefficient. For primary inputs, we had 6 different types of primary inputs components. So I think we see we have the inverse. We have the final use, the final demand, and both up together brings us up with the total production. And this total production will be transformed by the labor coefficient in total employment. So all the same approaches are used if we make this here with the satellite system. I have here 2 or 3 examples, because what you can see from this next example if you have two different tables, which are also available for Mongolia. Changes in employment in use by final demand categories in the country of Slovakia between 2000 and 2005. What we see in the first table, we see here, I think they have it written down, final consumption in bold, what we know in our table is all in columns. Final consumption by government, gross capital formation, export. Don't be surprised, I think they changed it according to the publication where there was a conference contribution in the workshop in Halle in February 2012. We would put it the other way around, and we would show this one in columns and not in rows. But nevertheless, the data are the same. In used employment, thousands of persons are directly and indirectly in use according to the final demand of the households, government, capital formation, export. You see here the figures, and you see the figures are a little bit reduced. Here we need 590,000, here only 491,000 for capital formation. Export of Slovakia needed 744,000 and 929,000 in 2005. There you can build up then specific proportions. You say this one will be 100%, and you build here so-called ranking by percentage. How much was necessary for this one or for the other one? Or you can say what are the so-called employment multiplier. They are taken again here from our inverse rate. This is much more of interest. To what reason these changes can be traced back? See here, for example, employment change from 2000 to 2005. It is a reduction of 99,000 persons. Here we have a reduction by 20,000. Here we have an increase, this goes by 38,000. And the main increase is with exports in Slovakia from 2000 to 2005, 744,000, 929,000. These are around 185,000. Altogether, if you compare these totals, the employment changes due to final demand, due to final use, are a plus of 103,600 employed persons in Slovakia. Now we want to know to what reason, what is the cause, why the changes have been taking place. And you see, employment changes proportion. You see that they are mainly changed according to employment, because you see here also the employment proportion has been reduced. So these two, all the four, are relevant according to employment, and you see again the 100. Here you see an additional plus 178, a small addition, but here are minus developments of the employment changes, and here are percentage change in employment in use by corresponding category of final demand. So what you can see from this example, if you have for Mongolia the table for 2005, you have the input-output table for 2010, and you make both tables comparable. Because we have heard here from Mrs. Erdős-San, 2010 is according to the new SNA, 2005 a little bit the old SNA, so both tables need to be made comparable. There will be some input necessary in the 2005 table. But if we have both, and we multiply the 2010 with the labor coefficient of 2010, in the 2005 table with the labor coefficient of 2005, and we make the multiplication with the final use in 2005 and 2010, we can see what happens with our employment in Mongolia. What has been increasing, what final demand component, what was decreasing. So it is an interesting example if you have two tables and you want to compare them. Not only with production, not only with primary inputs, but also with employment. And that means again, the satellite system for employment is helpful to answer a little bit different question. So I think if the government would say, okay, what we should do with the labor market. that we have a good labor market in 2015, then I would recommend them look at first to the development before. Not start only with 2013, but look at first and get a feeling what final demand component will be the most important. I believe your mining sector will be most important, but we have seen from our employment matrix, in mining we have not so many people employed as in the services part of the Mongolian economy. In services there are more people employed, more people working as a mining. So I think that is an issue that also should be taken into account if you start with some analysis for the employment. I have another one, what I like very much, although it is, I think it was taken. Our institute, the EIW in Berlin, is making so-called weekly reports. And in 2003, we made a report about exports and employment in Germany as a long time series from 1991 up to the year 2001. These were the data before the unification, because you know we have now around 80,000 inhabitants, and I think an employment of about 60 million, not only 38. But only to show you what can be done with I hope. These were the total employed person, employed people in Germany. Employed people. So I think it's interesting in 1991, 38,400, more or less here you see a decrease, then a little bit increase, and then the last 3 years having more increase, so that we have made more or less the same level as we had 10 years before. Now the question is, how many of these employed people are export induced? How many of the employed people have their job due to export of Germany? And you know, Germany has heavily exports. It is an exporting country specifically for capital goods, machinery, cars, electrical parts. So I think we are a heavy exporter, and we unfortunately a country that has not much raw material. So we have only coal, which is becoming less and less, and we have not as you the different parts of the raw materials coming from your mining sector. So you see how many persons were in the different years engaged for producing directly and indirectly exported goods. 7,007 people in the year 1991. Then I think we have decreased. And now, I think in 2001, we had employed, according to the German exports, 7,750 persons of our overall employed number of 38,970. What is the share? The share was at the beginning, this one divided this one, 18%, then it went down, then it increased a little bit, and finally it increased to a big amount. This one divided by this one, just 20% in the year 2001 of our employment were export dependent, directly and indirectly, so you can say every fifth working place in Germany was export dependent. Every fifth, because 20% means from the overall employment, every fifth working place. What is very interesting to see, change of employed people compared with previous years. What we have done, we have made a time series, and we have now only compared this one, this year with the year before, this one with the year before. And you see, for example, take 1993 and deduct the year 1992, you will arrive here at the figure minus 530. And you see that a lot of these data which are shown here for the total are due to the change in the export induced. So I think the exports were always, in every year of the German economic development, a very important factor. You see here also the development. We have 16.2% of the overall employed are reduced by exports. Here we have a heavy low change from this one to this one. And you see here from minus 61 to plus 78. And this one here, so I think here we have the total change, and this is the change that can be attributed to our export. And you see here, we have here the export induced employment. So I think if you have a long time series for export, and you multiply it maybe with 2 or 3 input-output tables, not for every year, but if the NSO is doing a table for 10, 11, 12, then the future for 13, they have another table for 2005, then you can also see what is the development of exports in Mongolia and how much of the employment can be attributed or can be explained with your exports. The second, the satellite system, what I want to mention is the energy content of final demand. It is not possible at the moment to make it, I think, for Mongolia, but it has been done. I must look for an example. It has been done for Brunei Darussalam, for the countries which are exporting so heavily gas and mineral oil. The integration of satellite systems for energy within IoT follows the same procedure as described for the integration of employment. At first, energy coefficients will be calculated by relating energy data expressed in you need for the energy satellite system a comparable, I would say a comparable database means you express it in 1,000 tons of oil equivalent. 1,000 tons of oil equivalent, this is the so-called KTOE, the total output level. So that means electricity, gas, and all the other energy factors will be transformed by a specific formula to this comparable 1,000 tons of oil equivalent. Otherwise, you cannot add electricity plus gas plus mineral oil. You need a comparable dimension. And this dimension are 1,000 tons of oil equivalent. That has been done for Brunei Darussalam. And these figures will be, as we have done it with employment, divided by total output, and you get a specific, not a labor coefficient, but a specific energy coefficient. Total 1,000 tons of oil equivalent divided by the output level gives you so-called energy coefficients. Then the direct and indirect energy content in the dimension of KTOA, per unit of final demand induced production, can be derived, we know it already, by multiplying this energy coefficient with the inversely on temperature. The same as we have done with AP, the same as we have done with B for employment. The problem is only to find the energy coefficient and to find then the common basis. Here the transformation is a KTOA. I think that is a specific term which is used in energy balances. If you build up an energy balance for a country, you have different energy components, but you won't add up at the end. So you have to add up. I think you cannot add gas, English word I do not know, for a different dimension, but you know gas has a different dimension from electricity, from mineral oil, and from water. So I think you need a common dimension, and these are the 1,000 tons of oil equivalent, is a KTOE. And then you get the so-called resulting matrix F energy, not F employment, not F primary inputs. And this then you can combine with, again we know it, with a matrix of final demand categories Y in order to get the total energy content of final demand. What final demand component is responsible for the energy which is needed in the country. And here you see 3 components. These are the final consumption. It is disaggregated by households, by non-profit making institutions, and by government. Here you have gross fixed capital, changes in value, if it changes in inventory, and you have export and you have the total final output. These all are expressed in this dimension, which is relevant for the energy satellite system. And here we made a distinction between what energy has been used in the production process and what energy has been used in final demand directly. For example, it's the same what I told you. If you are going to your petrol station and you ask for gasoline for your car, it is the final demand used directly from petroleum products. But if we need the food, and during the production of the food, in the production process, they have also be used some petroleum products, so it will be shown here. So here are the input of energy in the production process, and here's the input directly. I think we have the same scene with our imports. We had direct imports to final demand. I mentioned the banana, but we have also indirect imports via the intermediate goods that are imported and they're processed in your country. And then they put both together, and if they put both together, this one and up with this one, and here you get then information what of the final demand vectors will be the most one who is using, I think, the energy in Brunei Darussalam. It is not surprisingly, according to the high exports of the mineral oil, the oil products, the crude oil and the gas, it is the export that is the highest figure, which you can see in the last row, and the next one will also be the final consumption of private oil. So you see, the procedure is always the same. You take an additional information, you combine this information with your IoT, you are using the same formula, only substituting the AP by B for employment and here by the energy coefficient if you have the satellite system for energy. So I think finally the computation is not difficult, but most difficult is to get the data. It would be also of high interest for you, Mongolian, if you could identify which final demand component is the most inducer of energy used in Mongolia. I believe it will be private household consumption, I believe, and then maybe then we have the exports. But I think both can be the case. I think it is an interesting example to see that also with information on energy, I think this one will be not made so often. I think we could make it for Brunei Darussalam because they had a specific energy balance according to the energy-oriented exports. For that reason it was possible. But I think you see what is also very interesting here. Look, here are a lot of blank cells. Why? For non-private organizations, for final consumption of government. They do not using here direct crude oil. They do not using direct petroleum products, natural gas. Only they are using electricity. They mainly using electricity via the production process. Here you see the big amount also in government according to the products. So I would expect here, it might be a small mistake, I would expect if we have here now the lights, I think the NSO belongs or it is separate. Okay. So it might be part of other institutions, but here are only the final demand sector. So okay, then we must make a so-called energy matrix, what we have done for employment. Then we could see that electricity is directly also used in the National Statistical Office as for illumination. But is it also use electricity if we get here some water, which is kindly offered here by the Statistical Office. So in the production of water, there is also electricity as a cost component included. So I think we are not bringing electricity, that's wrong. But in the production of water, electricity was also needed. And then we can attribute according to our IO approach. Now, an issue where I believe it will be more important for your country instead of only the energy use. The emission content of final demand. Pollution. environmental aspects. The integration of the satellite system for environmental pollution within IoT again follows the same procedure as described for the integration of employment. At first, what we need, not employment coefficient, not energy coefficient, but emission coefficients. Emissions or pollution coefficients. They will be calculated by relating data on emissions of greenhouse gases. It's again such a comparable dimension, GHG, the so-called greenhouse gases. It's a comparable dimension for different emissions from fuel combustion expressed in CO2, that you know. CO2 equivalent to total output levels in millions of currency units. I think if you open in the evening, I think here's a window. I believe you can smell some of the pollution which are coming, I think, from the air, where they are also make heating, but they are also coming from your 3 energy power stations. I think if you have wind, it's not so difficult. If you have clean, or I think weather as today, you will not smell it. But in the evening, I have seen it in my hotel. I could only open it for a short time because otherwise it would be not so good with, I think, the air in the hotel room. Having these greenhouse coefficients, then we can calculate and compare the direct and indirect GHG, the greenhouse gases emissions content, in 1,000 tons of CO2 per unit of final demand in use production, by combining it again with our inverse Liontiev matrix. Then if we multiply it again, as we have done it so far, always with our final demand or final use matrix, then we get the so-called resulting matrix F emission. And we could see from this one, it is also made again for Brunei Darus Salam, total GHG emissions from fuel combustion attributed to final demand categories in Brunei, measured in 1,000 tons of CO2. You see again the same. It was calculated for the input of fuel combustion here in the production process, mainly for petroleum product and natural gas. In the final demand directly, you see again here the zero, because it refers to the products which are given to the final demand categories, and both together gives us again our total, and you see again the same what we have expected. No, now it's different. You see here final consumption on the main sector that induces the pollution issues, because this figure is higher than the production of the export product. And also the final consumption of government is a sector that induces a lot of the emission issues in the country of Brunei Darus Salam. So you see the same we can do, but again the problem to get the basic data to combine them with our IoT table. You have seen that all the satellite systems follow the same approach. Most important is to get the basic data for the satellite systems. I think we mentioned yesterday a little bit also the capital information, where we heard from, I think this morning, from Mrs.